one of the two essays that James Madison wrote that you needed to read for this particular unit is Federalist number 10. And going through it, what I want to take an opportunity to do in this brief presentation is just to help you identify some of the key points in this particular essay, given that it is written in a language that is sometimes a little complicated and a little bit dense. So hopefully this will help you sort through some of the arguments that James Madison is saying. The first thing that we need to do is focus on this particular paragraph here, where James Madison is trying to define what he means by a faction. And his definition is a faction is a group of people that could be either a majority or a minority who are united by some common impulse or passion. So what Madison is saying is that you have a group of people, they are united by some particular set of interests that might be at odds with the rest of the interests of the community. So this is the first key point in Federalist number 10, is that you got to figure out what to do with factions. The second thing that Madison turns to is the next sentence here, where Madison talks about there are two methods for curing the mischiefs of faction, one by removing its causes, the other by controlling its effects. And again, when you talk about removing the causes of factions, there's a problem. The first is, liberty is an important part of the American experience. So there's no way to give everyone, the same thoughts, the same beliefs, because then you would be completely denying liberty. And an extension of that is that because of the differences in individuals, and Madison gets at it here in this particular paragraph, he talks about this in the sense that you're always going to have different interests in society. Because of different skills and things along those lines. So you're always going to have a lot of different interests. And the bottom line, and again, it starts here in the next sentence, Madison talks about the latent causes of faction are sown into the nature of man. And what that means in plain and simple English is factions are just going to be expected, right? People are going to have different interests. It is a natural part of the human experience. So the question at this point now is that if you cannot eliminate the causes of faction, then the only thing that you can do is to try and control its effects. So Madison comes down to that a little bit later in the essay, and the first thing he talks about here is that if a faction consists of less than a majority, relief is supplied by the Republican principle. So what this means is if a faction is a minority, it's a smaller part of a group, then what winds up happening is you can defeat a minority faction simply by voting. And the thing that Madison wants you to note, and again, it's one of the things that we kind of see playing out today, is that, again, Madison goes on, he notes that it may clog the administration, it may convulse society, but it will be unable to execute and mask its violence under the forms of the Constitution. So when you have a minority faction, it might be ugly, it might cause problems, but it can be dealt with through the practice of voting. Okay. Now, the bigger picture is how do you prevent majority factions from forming? And again, one of the things that Madison talks about, and this is absolutely critical for the political system that we have in the United States, is that Madison highlights the importance of a republic. The United States is a republic because we choose other people to make decisions on our behalf. The United States is not a pure democracy because we actually don't make the decisions. We delegate responsibility to other people. So the United States is a republic. Other people that we have selected make decisions about what our government does on our behalf. Okay, so as part of the differences Madison gets to explain between a democracy and a republic, right? So the first thing I've just talked about is that you have the delegation of government to a smaller group of citizens who are elected by the rest. And what this does by choosing other people to make decisions on our behalf is we presumably will choose wiser people than us to make those decisions, and it serves as a filter for all of us to filter our interests through a smaller group of people, and hopefully those people will be able to find the best interests of the country. The second thing that Madison talks about is that you need to have a large republic. And this is somewhat counterintuitive, and it's referred to as the size principle. But Madison argued in Federalist number 10 that a larger republic is actually better than a smaller republic, because a larger republic means that it will be harder to have factions come together to I think of a small group of people where it's pretty easy for one or two people to exercise an excessive amount of influence and shape a conversation or shape a particular decision, and then think how much harder that becomes when you've got more people involved. So when you've got 5 people compared to 10 people compared to 15 people compared to 20 people, it gets harder for any one person to have any set of interests. And the more people you have, the more interests you have, the less likely that you are to have any type of majority faction. So what Madison is arguing is, again, somewhat at odds with the anti-federalists, is that by having a larger republic, yeah, maybe in one state or 2 states you might have people who are able to create problems, but when you extend the scale of the country, it is less likely to have an adverse effect on the country as a whole. So the bottom line, the thing that Madison is trying to address in Federalist number 10 is that factions are common. Okay, you cannot eliminate factions, but what you can do through proper institutional design, and Madison's answer is a republic, that serves to limit the effect that factions can have and diminishes the possibility that they will have an adverse effect on the United States as a whole. I'll record a separate presentation on Federalist number 51.